try to stop us, but we keep coming back.
I won't forget that just right before the virus last year and the year before, watching Dr. Zaher Sahloul go to Gaza, a place that is very beloved to me as a Syrian American doctor, to go support and provide healthcare services to the Palestinian people of Gaza.
And you can see the drawing of this child from Aleppo, where you have helicopters throwing barrel bombs. Barrel bombs are barrels sometimes as big as the dumpsters, garbage dumpsters, stuffed with TNT and shrapnels. It's a cheap way to kill people, mutilate children, and cause destruction.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to The Struggle. Today we talk about a rally calling on the governor of Connecticut to wake up about dangers to the climate, and more of the Gandhi Peace Award. A group of young people organized by the Sunrise Movement assembled at sunrise and walked to the Connecticut governor's mansion on the border of Hartford and West Hartford. They wanted him to once and for all abandon the dangerous plan to build another fracked gas power plant in Killingly.
Gonna rise up till it's won. When the people rise up,
I don't think this is
the power comes down.
I don't think this goes
When the
sideways.
people rise up,
That's okay.
the power comes down. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back.
They walked up to the gates of the governor's mansion to deliver their message.
All right.
So turn around. The camera's going to be pointing at us. Bring your deal folks over here. Same thing gets set up back there. I think so could back up a little bit.
Get to the top, that's awesome.
All right, Green New Deal on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Green New Deal!
Awesome.
It's bright and early, the sun is rising, and the birds are chirping, and we want to know if you are awake. Awake and aware. Awake and aware of the blatant disrespect and carelessness towards the voters that got you to the chair that you sit in that office in the Capitol.
Mitch Kavidar explained what brought these people out so early.
My name is Mitchell Kavider, and I'm the co-director of Sunrise Connecticut, which is our Hartford-based hub focused on legislative issues across Connecticut. And we came out here today, a bunch of youth protesters came out to the governor's residence here in West Hartford to protest specifically the Killingly power plant. Now, Killingly is a fossil fracked gas plant that's potentially coming online up in the northeast corner of Connecticut. And we're here together today to really make sure that Connecticut's future is bright. We're talking about a fossil fuel plant and the age in which the Intergovernmental Panel only says that we only have 10 years until 2030, in which we need to do everything in our power to transition away from fossil fuels and make the move to renewables and energy efficiency. And here we are protesting this plant because there's no real need for it. There's no need for more fossil fuel plants harming Connecticut residents' health, as well as contributing to the climate crisis that we are fighting every day and beginning to feel the effects of. That's only going to get worse. We're here to protect our future and Connecticut's future. And we called on the Governor Ned Lamont, to make a decision. He's been somewhat wishy-washy on the status of Killingly for a long time now. Same with Deep, saying that it might be necessary, it's necessary. They don't really like it, but it's a thing that they think they have to do. And that's simply not the truth. In the last 15 years, we've prevented the need of more than three fossil fuel plants, new fossil fuel plants, from coming online in Connecticut simply through energy efficiency measures. So that means like insulation, that means just better energy, light efficiency and appliance efficiency across the state of Connecticut. And so like one thing we could advocate for instead would be something like greater energy efficiency programs to help low-income communities make their transition to having better housing and insulation and everything, so that we reduce the need for energy elsewhere and don't need a new fossil fuel plant. So we're calling on the governor he has a month until the plant's confirmation process is done, calling on the governor to really to step out and say, you know what, we don't need this, and he needs to lead, and that's what we're calling on him to do. Thank you.
At one point, they banged on pots and pans to wake up Governor Lamont. It was a tactic used in Connecticut as far back as the campaigns to abolish slavery.
Just so we all can hear it, because I don't know if you guys can hear. Can you guys hear? Okay, never mind. You're damn.
When the air we breathe is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up like that.
When the air we breathe is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up like that.
When the air we breathe is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up like that.
Now back to the Gandhi Peace Award 2020. We'll have the full remarks of Linda Sarsour and the first part of the address by Dr. Zaher Sahloul. Linda Sarsour is the renowned Palestinian Muslim American activist. She was one of the main organizers of the immense Women's March in 2017. That year, Time magazine called her one of the 100 most influential people in the world.
Thank you so much, Stan. Good afternoon, everyone, and all of our friends at Promoting Enduring Peace. I'm so honored and humbled to be here with all of you today. When I think about the history of Promoting Enduring Peace, founded in 1952, which is 28 years before I was born. And I hope that you are all proud that there is still a generation that came after you, a generation like mine who continues to be anti-war, continues to promote and be committed to our earth, and continues to work towards a world where there is justice and peace. I, as Stan shared with you, I'm a very proud and unapologetic Palestinian American, and I'm grateful to Promoting Enduring Peace for also recognizing in the past Omar Barghouthi. It shows the type of commitment to justice and the political courage that Promoting Enduring Peace has to honor a man like Omar Barghouthi, who was one of the first Palestinians in Palestinian society to call for boycott, divestment, and sanctions of the state of Israel based on their human rights violations of the Palestinian people. And it is very fitting today that this award that I will be presenting to another great humanitarian, a man who is not just a physician and a professional, but someone who has committed his life to uplifting humanity, to alleviating pain, harm, and suffering, not just amongst his beloved people of Syria, but for people all over the world, including to my beloved people in Palestine. I had a journey 2 years ago to Jordan, and I went to Ramthe, which is on the border of Jordan and Syria. And I got to meet firsthand and be with amongst, for many days, Syrian refugees. And I got to hear their stories firsthand. I got to sit and cry along with mothers who had lost their loved ones, their children, some their spouses, some their fathers, and many their brothers. And I have been moved by the Syrian revolution since day one. As a Palestinian, I have been committed to the liberation of the Syrian people, just as I have been committed to the liberation of the Palestinian people. Dr. Zaher is a man of great courage. He goes to the most dangerous places to provide and bring some light. Syria is one of the most dangerous places for medical professionals, and it does not stop Dr. Zaher Sahloul from risking his life, a man with a beautiful wife, Suzanne, and wonderful children that he leaves behind, that he goes and risks his life for others. I won't forget that just right before the virus last year and the year before, watching Dr. Zaher Sahloul go to Gaza, a place that is very beloved to me as a Syrian American doctor, to go support and provide healthcare services to the Palestinian people of Gaza who have been living in an open air prison. Not only is Dr. Zaher Sahloul a man of great political courage who has committed to alleviating the harm and suffering of people all over the world, I'm watching him be a hero today here in the United States of America, and being able to witness what he's seen in Syria, the overcrowdedness of hospitals, the scarcity of resources, and still going through all of that to make sure that people had a kind man, someone who is going to show them that there still is hope amidst all the darkness. He's doing that here in Chicago hospitals for those who have fallen to the coronavirus. I want you to know, Dr. Zaher Sahloul, that I am very honored to call you a friend, to see and experience and to be alive to witness the work that you have done for our communities as an Arab American leader, a Muslim American leader. And I want all the folks that are here today to know that Dr. Zaher Sahloul is the best that our Muslim American communities have to offer, our Arab American communities have to offer. And I'm pretty sure that I will speak on behalf of Syrians, although I am not a Syrian myself, that he is the best that the Syrian American community has to offer. And so this honor that you're receiving today, Dr. Zaher, is one that is well-deserved. You deserve every honor. And I'm grateful to the people at Promoting Enduring Peace for recognizing your work and for giving you your flowers while you are here today with us. And I will say this to you, Dr. Zaher, inshallah, one day, and I believe it in the deepest part of my heart, that you and I will meet one day in a free Syria, and then we'll take a trip over to be together in a free Palestine. Congratulations.
I'm humbled, Linda, by your introduction. I recently finished reading your book. Took some time, but I finished it. We are not here to be bystanders. I recommend it for everyone. Sister Linda is one of the most powerful voices in the progressive and the Muslim communities. She speaks in her book about how she grew up as Palestinian Muslim American in Brooklyn and how she became a global activist on behalf of marginalized communities. Linda deserves many awards for her courage, solidarity with the marginalized, with the disenfranchised, and also for striving for justice and peace everywhere. Thank you, Linda. And let us learn from her not to be bystanders, be an upstander. Stand up for your rights, stand up for justice, stand up for the refugees, for the displaced, and stand up for Native Americans and the people of color. Stand up for the Rohingya in Myanmar, for the Uyghurs in China, for the Venezuelan victims of tyranny, for the Yemeni victims of geopolitical war, and for the Palestinians. The Palestinian cause is dear to my heart. My family and I are the product of the generous and the welcoming Palestinian community in Bridgeview, Illinois. My wife and I witnessed the same hospitality in Gaza under siege in one of the global medical missions. In spite of the siege and the occupation, the Palestinian people prevail with their resilience, with their beautiful souls and culture, and with their unmatched generosity. It is frankly my honor to receive Gandhi Peace Award on behalf of the Syrian healthcare workers, alongside Maysoon Al-Masri, representing Syrian humanitarian and rescue workers. Mabruk to the White Helmet, Alf Mabruk, much deserved Raid al-Saleh and all the brave volunteers of the White Helmets. During my dozen medical missions in war-torn Syria, my homeland, I have had to trust smugglers and drive through Sniper's Alley, crawl under border fences, jump walls, walk for hours without light over mountain passes, and survive near misses from barrel bombs. I forced myself to write op-eds, to advocate, to speak, to fundraise like there's no tomorrow. I worked and slept in underground hospitals in Aleppo and Idlib and other places that were bombed multiple times. They did not teach us that in medical school. It was a long and turbulent journey, but it was very fulfilling. About 10 years ago, hundreds of thousands of young Syrians went to the streets chanting for freedom and human rights. They believed that peaceful demonstrations and civil disobedience will force the Assad regime to accept their rightful demands. The regime responded with extreme brutality, with snipers, with bullets, with torture at industrial scale, with siege, with nerve gas and barrel bombs. The regime agents, al-Mukhabarat, snatched injured demonstrators from many hospitals, from the operating rooms, from the intensive care units, and tortured the doctors who treated them. When doctors built field hospitals to treat the injured during demonstrations, the regime bombed the field hospitals. People rebelled and they were forced to defend themselves and their dignity and their neighborhoods. They built hospitals and schools underground, in chicken farms, in basements of buildings, basement of churches and mosques, and even in caves. What started as peaceful demonstrations was transformed into a brutal geopolitical war. The Syrian people were the victims. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., one of my heroes, who was also a recipient of Gandhi Award 1964, said, "We will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." We expected everyone who loved freedom and hated tyranny to stand up with the Syrian people, but we were shocked. Some people in the left and the peace movements remained silent, while others who must not be named stood with the tyrant. Some even participated willfully in disinformation warfare against the Syrian people. They mocked the victims and promoted idiotic conspiracy theories. I am very grateful for promoting Enduring Peace and its leadership for trying to reorient the peace movement and the left on this crisis, where many progressives have gone astray. The Syrian crisis has changed the world. What happened in Syria was not contained in Syria. The brutality of the Assad regime unleashed the worst refugee crisis since World War II. Half of the Syrian population have been displaced. Today, there are still 5.6 million Syrian refugees. 1 out of 4 refugees in the world is from Syria. There's 25 million refugees in the world. As the Somali poet Warsan Shire said, "No one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. You only run for the border when you see the whole city running as well." You have to understand that no one puts their children in a boat unless the water is safer than the land. 500,000 Syrians lost their lives, and tens of thousands disappeared in Assad's prison. They were tortured to death. Women were raped. The Syrian crisis normalized the use of chemical weapons, the attacks on healthcare, and the starve to surrender tactics. All are crimes against humanity. It also undermined 150 years of medical neutrality and Geneva Conventions. On my Twitter handle is the drawing of a child from Aleppo. I would like you to look at the drawing. And you can see the drawing of this child from Aleppo, where you have helicopters throwing barrel bombs. Barrel bombs are barrels sometimes as big as the dumpsters, garbage dumpsters, stuffed with TNT and shrapnels. It's a cheap way to kill people, mutilate children, and cause destruction. Very cheap, but it's a weapon of mass destruction. It's not a smart bomb. It's a dumb bomb, but it has been used tens of thousands of times in Syria, while the world was just turning the other way. In this drawing of the child, you can see the impact of the barrel bombs. Houses on fire, Children are mutilated, they are bleeding. But strangely, this child, the innocent child, drew the children who are dead, they were smiling. And the children who are alive are crying. Children don't lie. The Syrian refugee crisis unleashed the anti-refugee and anti-immigrant sentiments in Europe and the United States. It led to the rise of hate groups and populism. It led to Brexit. It led to the spread of xenophobia, Islamophobia, and also to the election of certain opportunistic politicians in many countries, including the United States of America. Countries started to build walls on their borders instead of opening walls. Against all of our values, our country resettled only 20,000 Syrian refugees. Germany, on the other hand, resettled more than 600,000 Syrian refugees. Our neighbor to the north resettled more than 50,000 Syrian refugees. Governor Pence, now a vice president, was the first governor in the United States, in his state, Indiana, who prevented Syrian refugees from resettling in his state. President Trump closed the door completely by his travel ban. That is a shameful act. It's a stain on our legacy as a nation that was always open to the huddled masses yearning to be free. I am optimistic that President-elect Biden, who pledged to reopen the door once again to Syrian and other refugees, will correct that stain, will remove it from our legacy as a nation. In the past 4 decades, our country welcomed over 3 million refugees from all over the world. Refugees have built new lives and communities in towns and cities in all 50 states. Immigrants and refugees are assets, not a burden. Diversity is an asset, not a burden. Syrian Americans are among the most successful immigrants. Many are healthcare professionals at the front line of fighting COVID patients, COVID and other diseases. They treat and heal millions of our fellow citizens. There are also famous Syrian artists, Syrian American artists, actors, rappers, entrepreneurs, scientists, businessmen, and governors. Every Syrian American is proud that Steve Jobs is the son of a Syrian immigrant. Syrian immigrant Ernest Hamwi invented the ice cream cone during the St. Louis World Fair in 1904. Everyone who enjoys ice cream and the iPhone should feel indebted to Syrian immigrants. I am also humbled to be the first Muslim and probably the second Arab American who received Gandhi Award. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, set the foundation for nonviolence 14 centuries ago. He taught us, whoever witnessed an injustice, she or he should change it by hand, and if not, then by words, and if not, then by heart, and that is the weakest of faith. He asked us to be merciful and compassionate. He asked us to walk lightly on earth, to be humble, and to be respectful of God's creation. He asked us to care about the orphans, the widows, and the poor. He asked us to seek peace and not to seek revenge. But he also taught us that justice is a prerequisite for an enduring peace. Without justice, there is no enduring peace. When I marched with my brothers and sisters in Chicago against the Iraqi war, against the Muslim ban, and for Black Lives Matter, I believed in the teaching of one of my heroes, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, justice is indivisible. You cannot segregate your moral concerns. Injustice everywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Throughout the Syrian crisis, I have met many of those who embodied the message of Martin Luther King. The Syrian people are indebted to you, my brothers and sisters. You have seen some of them today, like Mark Nelson and Mali and and others. Mark Nelson, an art teacher, school teacher from a small city in Kewanee, Illinois. Like also Dylan Connor. Like also the 3,000 American women who ran Stand with Aleppo campaign. Hi, Becky, Tracy, Harriet, Leah, and Wendy. Like Dr. John Kaler, a pediatrician from the south side of Chicago. Dr. Kaler, who was 69 years old, joined me at that time in 2016 in unforgettable medical mission at the peak of the bombings and the siege of Aleppo. He wanted to treat the children of Aleppo after the death of Dr. Wissam al-Mu'az by a missile in his hospital, Al-Quds Hospital in Aleppo, while he was on duty. When we returned back with the help of a group of diverse doctors and nurses, we founded MedGlobal, a medical NGO that provided and provides healthcare to disaster regions all over the world. More than 700 doctors and nurses from 25 countries joined MedGlobal to partner with local communities and build resilience in war-torn countries like Yemen, Gaza, Iraq, Syria, and other countries, to lend a hand of healing to the Rohingya and the Venezuelan refugees, to reduce healthcare disparity in Chicago and other places in the United States, and to help frontline healthcare workers during their ordeal fighting COVID.
During the entire ceremony, it was so good to see Palestinians and Syrians standing by each other, since Assad's flunkies work night and day to try to divide them. More of Dr. Sahloul's remarks on our next program, or you could see the entire Gandhi Peace Award right now by going to pepeace.org. If you see our show on December 19th, consider going to the Cancel Rent demo in Hartford at 2 p.m. While billionaires are raking it in, millions of our brothers and sisters are threatened with becoming homeless. That's our program for today. Stay safe, but stay active. I'm Stanley Heller for The Struggle.